When the Hitman strikes, you can hear the echo of Detroit. His power comes from the very heart of the Motor City. In the northern United States stands a city known as the Valley of Ruins. It's a ghost town, an American Rome, with a storied past and a tragic fall. This is the city of Detroit. 70 years ago, however, it stood as the epitome of the American dream. Among factory homes cloaked in thick smoke, where every brick bore the weight of relentless labor and iron will, warriors were born, fearless and unyielding. In the constant hum of industrial life, legends took shape, hardened like steel under pressure, tempered with unbreakable resolve and raw power. This is a tale of strength forged in fire and iron, a tale of a man whose destiny was melted together with the soul of Detroit. This is the story of Thomas Hearns, a boxer with the chilling stare of a cobra and a killer right cross. Prepare yourself, because we're stepping into the world of the Hitman. On October 18, 1958, in the small town of Grand Junction, Tennessee, one of the members of the Fabulous Five was born. He was named Thomas after his father. When his son was born, Thomas Jackson left the family and never returned. Little Tommy lived with his grandfather on a farm near Grand Junction. He grew up as calm and quiet as his grandpa. When he was 5, his mother, Lois Jackson, married John Hearns. The family moved to Detroit, Michigan. This city was the cradle of talented boxers, with Joe Louis being the greatest of them all. John Hearns didn't stay long as the head of the household and left suddenly as he arrived. All he left behind him was his surname, which his stepson would later make famous worldwide. At 13, Thomas decided to try boxing, after first dabbling in wrestling and karate. By then, Detroit had already suffered the chaos of the 1967 riots and the ensuing crisis, which led to a mass exodus of its population. This marked the beginning of the fall of the industrial giant. The city that had once thundered worldwide with its manufacturing might was slowly losing its shine. But deep inside it, a heart was still beating. It pulsed in the cramped basement of an old wellness center. Inside that basement, with mint green walls crawling with cockroaches, was a factory for creating champions. In a sweltering atmosphere filled with sweat and ambition, something great was being forged. That place was called the Kronk. It was here, in this cramped and cruel world, that a skinny teenager with long arms and eyes full of determination came down one day. Emmanuel Stewart, the owner and head coach of this gym, immediately took notice of the new kid, and to be honest, he wasn't impressed. He was so skinny, it was almost scary, Stewart would later recall. This gym had seen fighters with natural power and fury, and Thomas looked like a reed. But the skinny kid from Helen Street did everything he was told, and he was completely fearless. "I've never seen a man who wasn't afraid," said Emmanuel. But Tommy was just like that. Kronk was more than just a boxing gym. It was a place where character was forged like metal in a furnace. The smell of wet boxing gloves, the sound of skipping ropes snapping, the dull rhythm of punches on the heavy bags, all of it was music to the ears of hope. Young men came here from the streets of Detroit, where life rarely offered a second chance, and found purpose in that basement. There was no room for weakness here, but there was room for belief. The belief that hard work and discipline could pull you out of the abyss. Thomas's first 3 losses in the amateur ring burned him like cold rain, but he didn't give up. Every morning, while most of his peers were still asleep, Thomas was already running laps on the deserted streets of Detroit, imagining how one day his punches would echo louder than this city. In 1975 and 1976, he came closer to his dream, winning silver at the Golden Gloves tournament. In one of the finals, he lost to Aaron Pryor. But in 1977, on his third try, Thomas conquered this prestigious tournament, defeating accomplished amateur Bobby Joe Young. Ray Leonard watched Thomas's progress. Sugar Ray attended tournaments where Tommy competed and was generous with his praise. Even then, the two talented figures watched each other's success with curiosity, suspecting that a great rivalry awaited them in the future. Unlike Ray, Hearns didn't make it to the Olympic Games in Montreal. He finished his amateur career with a record of 155 wins and 8 losses. It was a strong start, promising the rise of a new star in professional boxing. Leaving behind the unfulfilled goals of his amateur career, Thomas Hearns stepped into the world of professional boxing, a decision that would not only change his life, but redefine what it meant to be a boxing assassin. In November 1977, in his debut fight, he unleashed a whirlwind, demolishing Jerome Hill with ease. Hearns' amateur career boasted 155 victories, but only 12 of them ended by knockout. By comparison, Sugar Ray Leonard had 145 wins, 75 of which were knockouts. At that time, Hearns' fighting style could be described as pecking, lacking emphasis and devoid of any sense of real power. It was as if Thomas didn't believe in the strength of his right hand, a fact his brilliant trainer Emanuel Stewart simply couldn't accept. For his weight class, welterweight at the time, Hearns' physical attributes were extraordinary. Standing 6 foot 1 inches tall with a reach of 78 inches, he was an anomaly. Recognizing this potential, Stewart and his team made a large-scale reconstruction of the fighting style, turning him from a cautious fighter into a relentless destroyer. One key figure in this transformation was Donald Thibodeau, a Kronk gym specialist in striking techniques. Thibodeau meticulously crafted Hearns' devastating right cross.
And dominated and menacing. There's a right hand!
He helped Hearns perfect every phase of the motion, from the base of the foot, where the momentum was originating, to the landing of the punch. Hearns that ended fights with brutal finality. But power alone wasn't enough. To land the right hand, the target needed to be prepared. This is where the jab came into play, a precise and versatile tool in Hearns' arsenal. He had 2 distinct types of jabs, each serving a specific purpose. Unlike a standard jab, this one started from the waist, creating the illusion of vulnerability. The punch would shoot upward with lightning speed, catching opponents off guard. When Hearns threw it, all the opponent could see was a sudden flash. Fans, however, had their own association for this jab, comparing it to the subtle flicker of a snake's tongue. The flicker jab foretold danger. Soon, Hearns earned the fitting nickname, the Motor City Cobra. On its own, the flicker jab was a dangerous weapon, but Hearns used it in 2 ways, through feints and by throwing his cross on the half beat. Tommy would make a squinting motion with his left hand that mirrored the manner of the punch. It was hard to predict when he was actually going to throw this flicker jab. The jab was the perfect disguise for his right cross. Thomas would double up the jab, lulling his opponent into a rhythm, only to break it abruptly by launching the cross halfway through the motion. The second type of jab was the pawing jab. Its purpose was to obscure vision, keep the opponent at bay, and gauge distance. It was a sniper's scope, and once the target fell within its range, it was swiftly eliminated.
Richards is ready to go. On the second.
Another fascinating aspect of Hearns' arsenal was his merciless body hooks.
Now Links takes another one. Another good right, his legs go again. Over he goes into the ropes.
With his exceptionally long arms, these punches appeared angular, much like his overall fighting style. Thus, the Hitman was created, wielding a style known as the Detroit style, the Hitman style, the style of Thomas Hearns. The meteoric rise of Thomas Hearns' career starkly contrasted with the decline of Detroit in the early 1980s. Workers were losing their jobs, families were falling apart, and the streets were filling with the homeless. The city was steeped in despair. People needed a hero, someone to restore their hope. Thomas became that beacon of inspiration, seen as the neighborhood kid who had risen above his circumstances. He quickly gained worldwide fame, while his trainer and manager, Emanuel Stewart, ensured that he had the right opportunities. Hearns' journey to a world title took 3 years. During this time, he demolished future champion Bruce Curry, stopped former champion Angel Espada, defeated Mike Cobra on points, and outclassed former title contender Harold Weston and seasoned veteran Clyde Gray.
On display, uppercuts, hooks, and the marvelous jab, and all around the ring, they're up on their feet, cheering, and down goes trouble. Oh, the right hand.
Starting in 1978, Hearns' name began to be regularly mentioned alongside Sugar Ray Leonard's. Ray often attended the fights of the Motor City Cobra, keeping a close eye on his progress.
You watched the Hearns fight, and you heard Tommy, in effect, say that you and Duran and Cuevas are ducking him. What's your reaction?
Well, the man is awesome, and I can see why the Detroit have a young man they can be proud of. But I honestly can say that I would be more than happy to accommodate Tommy Hearns. I think finally he's cornered me because I've been ducking him for so long, and now he has a chance to get me in that ring.
But at this point, the Hitman was still just a prospect. Sugar Ray's shrewd manager, Angelo Dundee, understood that in a few years, their fight would be more than just a title bout. It would be a global event. All Hearns had to do was keep winning. In August 1980, Hearns got his first shot at a world title. His opponent, José Pepino Cuevas, the reigning WBA champion and a national hero in Mexico. Cuevas had made history as the youngest welterweight champion ever, turning professional at just 14 years old. Over the next 4 years, he climbed to the top of one of the most competitive divisions in boxing, a division that included stars like Wilfred Benitez, Carlos Palomino, Roberto Duran, Randy Shields, and of course, Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns. By the age of 22, Cuevas had defended his title 11 times. His left hook was feared throughout the sport, sending opponents straight to the hospital. Angel Espada, broken jaw. Billy Backus, fractured orbital bone. Harold Weston, broken jaw and ribs. Pepino was a champion respected as much as he was feared. The fight between Thomas Hearns and José Cuevas took place in the Motor City. Analysts couldn't pick a clear favorite, which only added to the intrigue surrounding the bout. But everyone at the Joe Louis Arena that night wanted the same thing: to witness the rise of a new hero who could lead Detroit out of its darkness.
White trunks to the left of your screen, and Pepino Cuevas, the reigning champion, in his 12th title event. Big Luke, 21 years old. He has almost a 6-inch reach of it. Look at him loading up the ring. Big advantage here for Hearns in the white trunks. Look at these shots. Everything on target. Bangs to the body. Back upstairs. One last shot up here. Boom, there it is, Abbott. Oh, wow, he got him again. He's got a lot of problems with Thomas. Oh, right hand gets through. Big right hand again. Look at this shot. He's ready to go. There it is, right there. Right on the cheek, right on the money. And then he catches him again. Cobra, Tommy, the Hitman Hearns. Stanley Cristobal, the referee, did a good job in stopping that fight.
When the referee raised Hearns' hand in victory, the entire city of Detroit forgot its troubles, if only for a moment. This wasn't just a triumph for the fighter, it was a triumph for the city itself. The feeling of victory would stay with the new world champion for a long time. In Hearns' words, it was one of the greatest moments of his life. Thomas Hearns' victory over José Cuevas left such an impression on boxing experts that he was immediately placed atop the pound-for-pound rankings. Shortly thereafter, Tommy graced the cover of the Ring magazine once again, this time in the guise of a gangster. New names soon found their way onto the Hitman's list. Luis Primera was dismantled in 6 rounds. Randy Shields catapulted after 12 one-sided rounds.
Oh, there it was, the right, the other right, and Shields is ready to go with that kind of explosive suddenness.
And Pablo Baez could only last 4 rounds.
Where you do anything to duck this, even like getting yourself beat by Baez. Baez.
On September 16th, 1981, one of the greatest showdowns of the welterweight golden era took place. Thomas Hearns, the undefeated Hitman and beloved icon of Detroit, squared off against Sugar Ray Leonard, the Olympic champion and charismatic leader of the new boxing generation. Tommy's purse for the fight was $8 million. To put this in perspective, had this fight occurred 3 years earlier, he would have earned just $12,500. The timing of the bout could not have been more perfect. Both fighters were at the pinnacle of their careers. After the fight, many fans confessed to Tommy that they had bet everything on him. Some even mortgaged their homes.
There was 2 champions in the same division, and one of us had to be eliminated. And may I say, Detroit, I shall return.
As valuable as the support of the team and fans is, sometimes the best support comes from your opponent.
I say in my book, we both are still champions.
The defeat motivated Hearns to redefine certain aspects of his game. After analyzing his mistakes, he returned to the gym to further enhance his jab, focus on head movement, and improve his close-range fighting. Thomas's transition to junior middleweight marked the beginning of a new chapter. Awaiting him in this division were legends from the Fabulous Five, such as Roberto Duran and Wilfred Benitez. This move signaled the shift in eras, from the golden age of welterweights to the exciting era of middleweights. With an upgraded arsenal, the Hitman Hearns compiled a list of new targets for elimination. His first victims were Ernie Singletary, Marcos Giraldo, and the undefeated Jeff McCracken. Notably, Giraldo had dropped to this division after giving Marvin Hagler a competitive fight. Against Hearns, however, he only lasted 1 minute and 48 seconds.
You know, when Duran moved up in weight class, he lost a lot of his punching power. He found when he hit the bigger, heavier guys that they didn't go to where they like.
After these warm-up assignments, Tommy took on a real challenge. He called out the WBC champion, Wilfred Benitez. Both fighters were 24 years old, and each had suffered their only loss to Sugar Ray Leonard. Thomas was just beginning his rise to glory, while Benitez was already part of boxing history. The youngest world champion ever, and a title holder in 3 weight classes. Their fight was not just a bout, it was a clash of 2 distinct boxing philosophies. On the one side stood the aggressive power and cold-blooded precision of the Hitman. On the other, the crafty defense and pinpoint accuracy of the Radar. The bout headlined the Carnival of Champions event. The rivalry began well before the opening bell.
Here, it's an in-your-face face-off.
Well, I don't know who's going to win this one. This one is a draw.
Yeah, the crowd loves this.
I would laugh.
The opening round set the tone. It was a battle of the Cobra against the Mongoose. Hearns attacked, but the elusive Benitez evaded the danger. The Puerto Rican showcased why he was called the Radar.
Knocked down 3 times. Harold West knocked him down. There's a good right hand by Hearns. But he can't double up on it. Almost every one of those missed.
Exchange again as Hearns tries to measure Benitez. Benitez normally likes to fight on the ropes and punch off the ropes, but in this case, he's just being kept too busy, and if half the punches are landing, that's all that's necessary.
More than a dozen of Hearns' lethal shots whizzed past the champion's head. Recognizing the difficulty of landing clear punches upstairs, Tommy shifted his focus to body shots, while Wilfred, sensing the danger, continued to study his opponent. Between rounds, Emmanuel Stewart offered this advice.
Everything's still behind this jab. The fight progresses, the man's reflexes slow down. A lot of the shots is barely missing will start connecting. The main thing, you have control of the fight. And that's a very important factor right now because the fight is very close. It's just the idea who is controlling who. Okay?
Now a right hand. There's the right hand, and that knocks Benitez back. They're going to call it a knockdown.
In the 6th round, Thomas Hearns began to assert his dominance. He landed an almost perfect shot. At this time, Benitez had been merely watching and defending, getting used to Hearns' power, distance, and speed. Having gathered enough information, the Puerto Rican finally sprang into action. From the 7th round onward, Wilfred unexpectedly seized the initiative. The rounds were still close, but Benitez now held a slight edge. At one point, the fighters strayed from their strategy of tactical boxing and engaged in a thrilling exchange of punches. By the championship rounds, the fight was evenly matched. Neither boxer was able to land a decisive punch before the final bell. In the end, the win by majority decision was given to the new champion, Thomas Hearns.
By majority vote, the new super welterweight champion, Tommy Hitman Hearns.
It was later revealed that the Hitman had injured his right hand, which hampered his ability to deliver a more convincing performance. Nevertheless, Thomas now held a world title and a win over the greatest fighters of the era. This marked the start of the most successful stretch of his career. Hearns outpointed Luigi Mancillo, knocked out top contender Fred Hutchings, and set up the legendary annihilation of Roberto Duran. Junior middleweight division became the Hitman's territory. Although Tommy was never undisputed champion, no one could outbox him. However, the fans quickly grow weary of a lack of competition, and even boxers lose interest without challenges. Seeking new horizons, Thomas Hearns made a bold declaration in early 1985. He would move up to middleweight to challenge the marvelous Marvin Hagler. By early 1985, only two kings remained from their renowned Fabulous Five. Wilfred Benitez's career had faded. Roberto Duran had paused after his losing to Hearns, and Ray Leonard was still in retirement. The only ones left standing were Thomas Hearns and Marvin Hagler, a matchup fans had long been yearning for. But fate seemed determined to test the patience of the boxing world. The Hagler-Hearns fight was originally set for May 1982 in Ontario, Canada. However, Hearns, prone to injuries, broke a finger. The fight was postponed to the summer, but now Tommy wanted the bout to take place in Detroit. Hagler, recalling the hostile reception he received from British fans after the fight with Alan Minter, flatly refused to fight his opponent on his home turf. The clash fell through a second time. 3 years later, with all logistical hurdles finally resolved, the fighters signed a contract for a showdown in Las Vegas. Promoters launched a massive tour. Over 2 weeks, Hagler and Hearns visited 26 cities, traveling by private jets and giving countless interviews. Their fiery rivalry was evident in every word exchanged. Two champions who had long been denied proper recognition were now basking in the limelight. The contrast in their personalities and styles shone through their verbal skirmishes.
Keep that belt by your bed, because it'll be the last time you see it.
Can't hear you.
But glory was just a facade. Marvin and Thomas had far more in common than they let on. Both knew what it was like to grow up without a father. Both had endured tough childhoods, where their trainers became their sole guiding figures in their lives. The victor's celebration, it can never drown out the pain of the loser. Defeat had pushed Thomas back. To the public, he was now seen as the fighter who lost the pivotal bouts against Leonard and Hagler. Those losses overshadowed his victories over Duran and Benitez. They outweighed his championships in two divisions. Fortunately, Thomas had fiercely loyal fans. Detroit stood by him, no matter what. His team still didn't abandon him either. According to Kronk's gym manager, Jackie Callan, she wrote Tommy a letter of encouragement, saying, "Many bask in glory, but you need to shine even in defeat. And while it hurts like hell, this is what defines you as a person." It took Thomas a year to recover. Returning to junior middleweight, he knocked out the undefeated James Schuler and another contender, Mark Metal.
Brilliant stuff. Unbeaten Schuler, but he's got it to do already in the first minute. Oh, there it goes.
It was clear that no one in the division could rival him, but endlessly defending his title seemed pointless. Thomas dreamed of an achievement that would set him apart from the other kings. This ambition led him to the light heavyweight division, where in March 1987, he challenged champion Dennis Andries. Tommy quickly adapted to the new weight class, maintaining his size advantage. However, fighters moving up in weight often find their punching power diminished. But for the Hitman, this wasn't the case.
Taken over the fight and dominated, and Benitez, there's a right hand!
That day, he became the first champion to rise from welterweight to claim a title in the light heavyweight division. 7 months later, Thomas Hearns dropped back to middleweight to compete for another title. Ray Leonard, having defeated Hagler, left the WBC belt vacant. It was this belt that Thomas Hearns and Juan Domingo Roldan fought to claim. The Argentine adopted Hagler's game plan, charging forward with aggression. But within 2 minutes, he found himself listening to referee Mills Lane's count. By the end of the round, Roldan was down again. His strategy seemed to have failed. Juan was losing decisively, but stubbornly stuck to his approach. In the 4th round, Roldan nearly succeeded. Thomas missed the left hook. The tide of the fight shifted rapidly, and it could have ended at any moment. But then came a precise right hand from the Hitman, and that was the finish. The Argentine was knocked out. Thomas Hearns had rewritten history, becoming the first boxer to win championships in 4 weight divisions. In boxing, anything is possible. On June 6, 1988, Thomas Hearns defended his middleweight title against a dangerous contender, Barkley. The champion was more talented, skilled, and faster, with a superior arsenal and higher fight IQ. But sometimes, none of that determines the outcome. Sometimes, a single mistake decides everything.
And he just swings, and boy, did he nail him. And look at that second right hand. How Tommy ever got up?
The punch that floored the Hitman became the upset of the year. From that moment, Hearns' career began its decline. In his next fight, he once again became the champion, claiming a title in his 5th weight class with a decision victory over James Kinchin. However, the verdict was highly controversial. Emmanuel Stewart saw enough signs to urge his fighter to retire. But it's hard to hang up the gloves when millions are on the line. Hearns lived a lavish lifestyle, sparing no expense for himself or those around him. His gym was always bustling with people, some wiping down gloves, others fetching water or towels, anything to earn a piece of his wealth. This connection to the ghetto, which Hearns could never sever, turned his generosity into a financial burden and his fame into a catalyst for chaos. In June 1989, he got the long-awaited rematch against Sugar Ray Leonard. Just 2 days before the pivotal bout, Thomas got shocking news. His younger brother Henry had shot and killed his girlfriend at Hearns' home. Henry was sentenced to prison, and Thomas paid $685,000 in compensation to the victim's family. Hearns went on to have many more fights, some ordinary, others defining. Some became the foundation of his legacy, while others symbolized his decline. But there was one performance I call the Hitman's final reckoning. At the end of 1990, Thomas ended his long-standing partnership with trainer and friend Emmanuel Stewart. Manny insisted that Hearns retire from boxing, unwilling to watch his best pupil become a stepping stone for younger talents. Hearns, however, decided to continue his career without him. At 32 years old, Hearns moved back to the light heavyweight and challenged the 26-year-old champion Virgil Hill. Stewart's replacement was his protege, Alex Shearer, who was familiar with Stewart's methods, but lacked his authority and charisma. Many believed that without Emmanuel, Hearns would lose his confidence. Virgil Hill seemed unbeatable, tall, fast, technical. He was the epitome of a boxer raised on the fights of the Golden Age. His stellar amateur career, including an Olympic silver medal and his undefeated professional record, seemed like guarantees of success. However, Hearns approached the fight with the mindset of a veteran who had experienced everything: glory, defeat, and comebacks. He knew he didn't need to be younger or faster to win. He needed to be smarter. This was the cornerstone of his strategy. During training, Alex Schurer took into account Hearns' recurring injuries into his powerful right hand. They decided to return to the fundamentals of amateur boxing, a classic jab and counterpunch. Taking center ring, the fighters engaged in a long-range firefight. By the 6th round, the evenly matched bout began to shift. The Hitman found his range. Like a true sniper, he forced Hill to open up and expose his position. Hearns expertly disguised his left hook and right cross. In the 9th round, Virgil was forced to show his toughness. In the final rounds, Hearns brought the crowd to its feet as they chanted. Against all odds, he outperformed the younger champion. When the final bell rang, there was no doubt Thomas Hearns had ended Virgil Hill's 4-year reign as champion. It was a triumphant comeback for Motor City Cobra. In 1993, Hearns reunited with Emanuel Steward, having fought only 2 bouts without him.
I said to myself, I said, here's a man that I spent the majority of my life with, that I learned everything from. And it's sorry to say that we have to break up because of a dispute that we was having.
Steward never left his corner again, guiding him until the end of his career. Hearns' final fights were in the cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions. Competing as a cruiserweight, he once again became a world champion, claiming the IBO title. A city once ablaze with the brilliance of the automotive industry and the rhythms of Motown now lingers in the shadows of decline. Detroit's heart, the legendary forge of champions, has turned to ruins. The twilight of Thomas Hearns' career coincided with the end of this era. By the time Tommy hung up his gloves in 2006, Kronk Gym had already fallen prey to neglect. Vandals stripped its wiring and plumbing, leading to its final closure by city authorities. When Emanuel Steward passed away, all efforts to revive the iconic training ground ceased. In 2017, under mysterious circumstances, Kronk Gym burned to the ground. Thomas Hearns was among the first to arrive at the scene of the fire. His eyes, accustomed to witnessing triumphs, filled with tears as he stood silently, watching the flames devour the last vestige of a golden era. After a long silence, he uttered only one sentence. "I'm sad that people didn't value this place the way we did." From time to time, Thomas returned to the site where it all began. He stands among the ruins, listening to the echoes of voices from the past. Though his gaze carries the weight of sorrow, a flicker of hope remains. A hope that his story and legacy of Kronk will endure. Not merely as memories, but as inspiration for those who continue to fight, for those who believe that dreams can transcend even the harshest realities.